Right, guys, Sinister Cyber Con. We are very excited, very happy to have for you one of our featured guests, star of Friday the 13th, Part 6. Ladies and gentlemen, he is back. The man behind the mask, CJ Graham. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. If you're so excited, how come you're not smiling?
I am smiling, man. I'm always smiling. It's Halloween. It is Halloween time. On top of everything else, I did just have a crown put in, which will definitely take that smile away for a couple of days. But we've got Jason Voorhees himself with us, man. Like Friday the 13th just came out with that beautiful box set as well. So it's been like a real seasonal this October celebration of the entire franchise. And you, man, we talked about it when you were with us in person for Sinister Creature Con, but you still to this day have, I think, the best opening sequence in the franchise, of course, with Tom Matthews and the lightning catching and all that stuff, man. But I know you were kind of big on the classic monsters. What was that scene like for you? Right out of the gate, to kind of do an homage to Frankenstein.
Yeah, I'm fortunate, and yeah, the set just came out. In fact, I'm doing a convention right now in Las Vegas, and I've had 4 or 5 of those come up to my table already for autographs. They look amazing. I was actually surprised that they were able to get all the different companies out there to concede and put one set together. It's actually got the 12 movies in it, and it's got an extra movie with some selected stuff in it. So I was actually pleased that they came around to do that. And as far as the opening scene for me, you shoot everything out of sequence for a movie. So the opening scene was the very, very, very last scene that I shot in Los Angeles. It was a green screen, and I kind of did the James Bond where I walk across, and instead of shooting, I slice the screen and it starts to bleed. So I was very fortunate to be in Part 6.
You're the camaraderie that I've had, because we had the late Steve Dash 6 months before you were a guest, and then 6 months after you were a guest we had Hodder as a guest.
Who?
And that would be the guy who came in after you, followed in your footsteps.
I don't follow that one, but okay, yeah.
But the camaraderie with you guys, because you've all done, stunt work. That was the thing that was kind of like Steve talked about it, you talked about it, you talked about it. Seems like anyone, with that physicality to them has done some kind of a stunt work in movie production. For you, do you think that built the relationship with Friday the 13th a little bit more, with you guys kind of all brothers in arms as having contributed to this one central character?
I have to not fully agree, because from the stunt perspective, up until I did Friday the 13th, I'd never done a stunt in my life, period. Wow. Ever. Not even in the backyard.
Wow.
So when the boys found out a few years ago that was the first time I'd ever done a stunt and never been to stunt school, they were kind of like in shock, like, you're kidding. So I'm not part of that, elite group. I did do all my stunts. I did perform, and I did survive. And I think we did a really good product. I hope we did, at least. But at that point, until a few years ago, the boys didn't know that I'd never been to stunt school. It was just naturally assumed that I was a stunt man.
Yeah.
But then again, I wasn't even an actor. I had never even applied myself to look at Los Angeles as an acting career or a stunt career. It just kind of developed. It dropped in my lap, and I took the ball and ran.
I know with other actors who have done Jason, they had a relationship with the franchise coming in later. But what was it like for you having that role come to you and really picking up the ball and running with it and putting your own physicality? Because each Jason is different, how they walk, how they kill, how brutal they are. What was it like for you to be told like, kind of be Jason, but then you're Jason.
Well, the nice thing about it is part 6, I would like to think, is where Jason became the principal of the film. I think up to that point where we're still watching all of the actors and actresses get killed, but all of a sudden, part 6, Jason stepped out of the shadows and became a principal, an image that I think all the fans started watching to say, okay, what's Jason going to do next?
Yeah.
So I really didn't balance myself after any of the past actors. I did watch a couple of them just to get a genetics of what I was supposed to be doing. But Tom McLaughlin was very direct. He wanted more of a coming back to life like Frankenstein, unstoppable, a little bit of thought. The brain cells were being connected little by little, and he was starting to see things in a different way and methodically thinking a little bit, not too much, but he also didn't want him to be just Days of the Dead or, something that came back to life and walked around like a zombie. So that's why the Jason character has some natural ability to think, walk, not talk, of course, but think about how they're going to do their next move.
When you have the costume on, are you internally, are you saying lines as you do Jason's different body motions? Are you saying something to the people that you're taking out?
Well, it's interesting because a lot of people say, well, you didn't say anything. How hard can that be? I challenge anybody out there that thinks they're a great actor, stage actor, to put a hockey mask on, block one way out. Now you only have peripheral vision, and I want you to show the audience that you're sad, you're angry, you're powerful, you're mad, you're curious. And you can't say a word. Nobody can see you raising your eyebrows. Nobody can see you squinting like you're trying to read something. It's a straightforward body motion. It's not easy as it sounds. And though I didn't understand it at the time, I was very fortunate that I was able to, give a presence that was selling that image. And here we are 3 decades later, and humbly, I'm here to talk about it. It's really, I'm appreciative.
The fact that the franchise remaining super popular is really a testament to the evolution of it, where it started with Steve with a bag over his head, and by the time you take over in 6, like you said, that Tom's wanting Jason to have a purpose. Your walk is very different than any Jason before you. Like you are, that thump, 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 and the Frankenstein resurrection homage scene where you come back is kind of that testament too, because it's almost like Frankenstein's footsteps. Thump, thump, here he comes. Like how much practice did that take for you to get back?
So I'm going to answer that question like a politician because you partially broke up. So I didn't get all that in my ear, but I did hear about the resurrection and the bag. So I'm going to make some assumptions. The bag concept was Steve Dash, of course. The hockey mask didn't come in to the series until part 3. And one gentleman, his name is Larry, and I kind of introduced it to the series. And of course, Richard Brooker, that was his gimmick. He put the first hockey mask on and he became the hatchet killer, so to speak. I think the important thing now is that hockey mask has become so iconic worldwide, and I say that with pride. I always tell people you can go to a country like India. India has 1.3, 1.4 billion people. You show a picture of Tom Cruise, they're all going to know, hey, Tom Cruise. Show them a picture of C.J. Graham or Kane Hodder. Okay. But if you turn the picture over and show them a picture of the hockey mask with Jason, they'll all say Friday the 13th, Jason.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. They may not know the person behind the mask, but the iconic image of the mask is worldwide. It is a franchise of its own.
You asked the fans of Friday the 13th if they had a question that they would like to ask you, and we got a couple. Ed Davis Jr. wanted to know, how was the RV kill scene? How long did that take you guys? Was there any fun stories in doing those kills for you on set?
RV kill, I can see that on the screen now. I think it looks like it came from Ed. Hey, well, Ed, I'll tell you this: the RV kill was one of the best kills, and the reason for that is it's twofold. We did everything in one take. That was great. It saved a lot of money. I got to pick up Darcy, and Darcy trusted me to physically take her head and physically throw it into a wall and stop, and then take it, throw it into a camera. So I have to say kudos to Darcy. Same thing with Tom. He allowed me to take a real knife and plunge it into his head. When I get 5 inches from it, give or take, stop. And then we would do the reverse knife. So both those actors and actresses were very professional. They taught me a lot. They trusted me. And it's important for me because, thank goodness nobody got hurt. It was a great shot. I mean, just a great, when the RV flipped, we took the hinges off the door, and we wondered if I could knock that door off. It's a real door. It's not exactly light. So we put a box below me so I could squat, and I just hit it like a football player. And we all, including myself, were amazed how far it flew. And thank goodness when I stepped out, I was able to get out with one step without losing my balance. Because that's part of the image. When Jason steps out, it's power. You're not going to stop me. You're going to die now. And when I walk to the end, it's just like victory. So it's kind of fun.
How many takes did that, with you guys inside of there, how many takes did you guys do all those different stuff with you grabbing her head?
We did it multiple times because grabbing her head, they made a bathroom on the studio set that we fought with. And she would just stand up and she got a grip on me. I put my hands around her neck, and we just started fighting. She started kicking me, and I had bruises everywhere because she was going for it. And that was her job, and I was okay with that. And then, we threw her into what looked like the wall, and then we came back and put a camera right in front of us, just the camera, maybe a foot and a half away from her head, and I took her head physically and threw it into the camera and stopped. And that's where you get that effect of it coming to the camera, then going through the outside skin of the motorhome. So we did a few shots to get that, but you know what? Darcy took care of it. And that's, when I see her sometimes at conventions, she has that image on her table that she sells and autographs of her face going through the skin.
The physicality of those films, man, are so, it's such a theme of the franchise. Did you ever get hurt?
I don't know if I did. I had a BA, bad attitude, when I was young. A little bit of a bad attitude still, but I had a bad attitude. I'd only been out of the military a few years, so it never dawned on me about getting hurt when I was doing all the stunts.
Mm-hmm.
It never dawned on me anything could happen. I was just doing my job, just like in the military, you do your job. So I'd never thought about it, and I was pretty good physical condition. I was 6'3", 243. I'm 6'3", 250 right now, so I'm right about the same thing. The only thing is I got a little bit of silver now, whereas before I had some dark, like you. But I never thought about it. I got to be honest, never thought about it.
You speak of the silver recently, over the last year, the fan production film, Friday the 13th, Vengeance came out, where you did get to play that other side of the hockey mask, so to speak, in playing Jason's father, Elias, which was pretty rad. There's some really cool imagery, man, of you, especially when you finally find him and you guys are face to face, because they did a pretty decent job of making him the Friday, the Friday Part 6 Jason with the belt and everything. So it's like you're looking into yourself. What was that like for you?
Well, a little over a year ago, I got offered. They were doing a fan film, and they needed some heavy, so to speak. And the concept was they're going to bring in Jason's father, Elias Vorhees, which happens to be throughout some of the backgrounds historically, but nobody's ever seen Elias. So I grew this beard out entirely for about 4 months, and then we put a wig on me and a big leather jacket. I looked like somebody from the backwoods. And they picked a gentleman named Jason Brooks to play Jason, about the same physical size as me. And there were some scenes where Daddy and Jason are having some words, so to speak, or at least Daddy's talking to Jason, just listening. And It's interesting concept. The fans liked it. My understanding is they've asked if I would entertain in 2021 coming back to play Elias again. They're going to do Vengeance. I think they're going to call it Bloodline. So I think they're going a little more in detail about Elias Vorhees. And I told them, yeah, let's take a look at the script and see what the opportunities are, and we'll go from there. The nice thing is I get to be the first, just like Ari, the very first Jason. Technically, he may not wear a hockey mask, but everybody remembers, hey, he's the very, very, very first Jason. I'll always say I'm the very, very, very first Elias Vorhees on a public screen, so to speak. So we'll see what happens. It was a good character. He was a badass, I'll tell you that. We spoke a little bit. There were times that I would talk and make some comments. And I killed, I don't remember the number, but I think I killed 4 or 5 people.
Yeah, no, the scene of you, the head stab scenes, and just the scene of you at the cemetery when the guy's telling you, Jason's body isn't in that grave, even though they moved the tombstone. And then the real quick, like, you take that guy out super quick. There's definitely the Jason kill aspect to Elias, but you're not hidden behind the hockey mask either. So you actually get to emote, which is cool to see you do.
Yeah, there are some great shots, and it gives me a chance to show those. We talked about those facial expressions earlier that are unavailable with a hockey mask. And there are those facial expressions of hate being directed towards the camera and anyone behind the camera, and it gives you those goosebumps like, damn. And the point is, if you're terrified of Elias Vorhees, you can only imagine what's behind that hockey mask being brought up as a child with that father.
We have another cool question. Freddy Lee Jones III. Who would you want to see Jason go toe-to-toe with next?
So Freddy Lee Jones III. We're just going to shortline that FLJ. So FLJ, I think my personal one is I'm not really a big fan. Freddy, Jason versus Michael Myers, Predator versus Alien. It's not my thing. It works, I think, for people. I really believe that the film should carry itself. But I hope part 13, once Mr. Cunningham, Mr. Miller create a truce and create that next great historical number 13, I hope they get to the main artery of similarity to what was done in part 6, so that the series has some connectivity over the next 2 or 3 films, so the fan base can really grasp it. We've learned a lot over the last 20, 30 years watching some of these series and how they go back and forth, even going back to the 70s with Star Wars, how they still bring it out today and the storyline gets connected for past. They're able to connect it and make it solid so the fans have a storyline. It'd be fun, maybe an opportunity to go out there and do it again. I don't know if, Tom McLaughlin has written a new script, and I know he's very interested in showing it to Mr. Cunningham, Mr. Miller, and Paramount, I believe. But at the same time, they have to come to terms. I know that Tom would be a great director for it. He's very brilliant in what he does, and he's got some very creative ideas how he can connect into part 6 to extend it into what would be considered a series with the father, Elias Vorhees, and some ideas of snow and different things that would make it much more gory. But we'll see what happens. He's talked to me about it. He's talked on podcast about it, would I entertain? And physicality wise, I got it. I'm big enough. Could I go through a door without killing myself? I don't know, to be honest with you. When you get older, when you're young, you tuck and roll when you fall. When you're older, you just go thump, Yeah. So, and you can laugh all you want, but it's a true statement. A couple years ago, I got bucked off my horse. When I hit the fence, I didn't move. It was thump. And I just looked at my horse upside down. If I'd have been younger, I probably would have done a flip and landed on my feet. So we'll see what happens.
The franchise in itself, too, one thing that we've never really gotten fully to the fullest extent is an end to the Tommy Jarvis, Jason Voorhees, saga. Even though they kind of have gone back and they've retconned in other franchises like Halloween, Michael finally catches Jamie Lee. They go back and they retcon so they can bring Jamie Lee back. But is that a film? I mean, you talked about them doing another one. Is that one that you would like to see, maybe like the final encounter Jason and Tommy get after it one more time?
Well, I think that's the nice thing about connecting the dots with part 6. Tommy was left alive.
Mm-hmm.
So the storyline can be picked up 20 years later, 30 years later, 10 years later. In Vengeance, they picked it up with Tommy's daughter.
Right.
Tommy was just a mystical person out there somewhere, but the daughter was picking up the Vengeance part. So you connect the dots correctly. I think you can go 10, even just 15 years forward, and Tommy can still be engaged in one form or another. Maybe he does have a family, maybe a family. Decides they're going to a camp. Guess what? The bus breaks down. They end up going to Camp Crystal Lake instead of Camp, Blue Moon. And unbeknownst to the child, they're where their dad was, and shit happens. There are some very nice twists that they could put into this. We'll just see. I'm not a writer. It's easy to be an armchair quarterback.
Yeah.
What you do after the point, because we get to think. But in the heat of the moment, I don't have a projection, but I think it'll be a nice, interesting concept. Tommy Jarvis, Tom Matthews is his name, is here at the convention I'm doing in Las Vegas. So I'll see him in about 45 minutes, and I'm sure he would be engaged if they approach him to do something like that.
What has it been like? It is 2020. It is why we are doing this virtually. What has it been like for you doing the conventions in person with everything that has been going on?
Well, I just retired 3.5 years ago from running casino resorts. So I had only done a few conventions over the last couple decades. I always knew there was a fan base for the Friday the 13th, but I didn't realize the magnitude, and I'm very humbly appreciative. It's nice. I had a young lady, I apologize, young man at my table last night, 6 years old, and showed me pictures of him and Jason wardrobe. How cool is that? And he's 6 years old. Now I'm 63. And I look at that as he can be my grandchild. And it's kind of nice to see that generationally it just keeps going and going. So for us, as the Friday the 13th iconic images, we're very blessed and very fortunate. Kane Hodder did a great job in 7, 8, 9, 10. Ken took over in Freddy versus Jason. Of course, Mr. Mears, Derek Mears, lock and loaded on the last one in 2009. So all we can do now is hope that the next one, whoever plays it, whoever writes it, whoever directs it, has the forwardness to put something together that part 13, great, part 14, 15, and 16 can be connected to, rather than, all over the place. So we'll see.
Do you foresee yourself ever putting the hockey mask back on? I know you said with Tom that you would give it the try, but do you, if there is a 13, 14, 16,
would look at the option. And since I'm retired, I can play. I don't care. It's not about am I going to get paid $1 or $5, but I don't want to go into space. I'm sorry, I don't. I don't want to dismiss how I did in part 6. So if I cannot deliver a product as good or better, then I'd have to let it go to another person to do it. I think part 6 was a good series. It was. I think I delivered, and I think that fans appreciate it. I hate to come back and do part 13 because I want to say I did it, and then the product is kind of, that's the worst nightmare of any professional athlete, to leave on top of their game and then come back a little later and be substandard. I couldn't do that.
It's funny that you mention not going to outer space or anything, outside of the norm of traditional Jason. Do you have a favorite film in the franchise that's not number 6 that you enjoy watching that from time to time?
Well, I always thought there was only part 6 for about 20 years. I didn't realize there was a part 4 and a part 8. I had no idea. I thought part 6 was it. And lo and behold, I find out there are 12 of them out there. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I thought I had only one. But Ken Hodder reminds me every day that he did 4 of them. So, I have went out and watched a couple. I may have not watched them to their fullest just to get a gauge on what they've done or how they've taken or modified the character.
When you guys all get together, you mentioned that Tom is at the convention where you are. Do you guys? I gotta imagine having all been in there. It's like being in like a film fraternity. Like I would imagine it's the same for like Nightmare on Elm Street or Halloween or any of those '70s franchises that really have stood the test of time. When you guys are all at a convention together and you guys are getting to see each other for the longest time that it's been in between, it has to be a cool feeling to be able to see each other again.
Yeah, it feels great. It's test of time. In 2 weeks, I'll be doing a convention with Tom McLaughlin, Tommy Matthews, and he'll be there. Cynthia, his wife, and Tom Finley, and I think Darcy DeMoss will be there. Don't quote me, but I believe she's there. It's a part 6 reunion. And when we all get together, there's a lot of pride. I think you find that a lot of these actors and actresses are just amazed that Friday the 13th has been such a huge success decades later. And hopefully for a person like me that was unexpected, I embrace it and I'm very appreciative of the fans. We wouldn't be having this conversation if it wasn't for the fans. So thank you to the fans. But I get to see those folks every once in a while. Like I said, Tom Matthews is here today. Every year, once a year now, I've been doing a convention where Alice Cooper is there. Alice Cooper and I do a photo walk with the fans. I do wardrobe as Jason. Alice Cooper is Alice Cooper, and we put the fans in the middle. And that's a huge success for the fans, an opportunity to meet Alice Cooper. One of the things about Friday the 13th Part 6 I'm very proud of, very fortunate to be, is, we're the only part of the franchise that has a James Bond opening. We're the only part of the franchise that has Jason coming back to life like Frankenstein. We're the only part of the franchise where we have a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, Alice Cooper, doing the music. And we're the only part of the franchise where I get to wear a Batman utility belt. So, we have, and if you think about it, there's no nudity in Part 6. So, without full nudity. I mean, that in itself, people when they're watching that, it's nice. There's nothing wrong with it. But I'm sure it can make some folks in the audience uncomfortable. And if we don't have to, we can embrace the entire audience. Why not? Tom McLaughlin did a good job of that, adding a little humor. Not too much. You can't make fun of Jason. But at the same time, you still had the kids getting in trouble and having sex in the mobile home. But there wasn't a bunch of butts in the air flying around.
Yeah, the pinballers I thought were like the perfect like comedic compliment to you as you go out there and you tear that poor crew apart. But it was enough to take the edge off that made it so fun.
Yeah, there was. If I understood the question correctly, there were several good opportunities that came along. I think revert back to what I said a moment ago. I think that if you take a look at Part 6, some of the comedy in it was kind of funny because it's like, well, what did you want to be when you grew up? I just did a Zoom with about 4 or 5 cast members a couple of weeks ago, and Tommy McLaughlin was there, Tom Finley was there, Cynthia, Vinny, Tom Matthews hosted it, and one young man came on. He's 40, 35, 40, 45 maybe. I didn't know who he was, and when they talked to him, oh, this is such and such. It still wasn't connecting with me when they were talking until all of a sudden Tom McLaughlin said, so what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, come to find out, that was a little boy, young man, 9 years old, underneath the bunk. And the other young man was his brother.
Oh, wow.
Your age, basically, bald hair, glasses up on his head, talking on an interview about what it meant to him. And so what do you want to be when you grew up,
That's super cool. You know,
Another story I'll tell you that the fans may appreciate is about a month ago, Tom McLaughlin called me, and the young girl in the movie, the little girl who started praying when I walked up in front of her, well, she has, since she's 40, 45, has a 6-year-old son. And she contacted Tom McLaughlin and said, you know, Tom, I'm such and such. I was in your movie. And Tom knew who she was. And she goes, I have a 6-year-old son. He wants a hockey mask, but he doesn't want a white one from Target. Do you know where I can get him a better looking hockey mask? Well, Tom reached out to me. I had a few made for my wardrobe photo ops. They're like spot on the real deal. And Tom opened the wardrobe. And I took it, I signed it, I mailed it to Tom. Tom signed it, mailed it back to her. Now, this is a young girl, maybe 7, 8 years old in the film, and now her 6-year-old wants a hockey mask. So I thought it was my honor, number one, that even she remembered me, let alone her son knows who I am. And so I made sure that he got it nice. I signed the inside of it. Tom signed it, mailed it back to her.
That's super cool, man. Even now, it's got to do your heart proud to know that there's not just Jason Voorhees of the young age. There's Jason Voorhees part 6 at a young age that are still dressing up as your Jason. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's my Jason humanitarian side, I always tell people.
Is there anything before we let you go where people can kind of keep track on, you know, that you mentioned the sequel to Vengeance is a possibility down the line? Is there anybody or any way that they can keep tabs to see what you got in the works next?
Well, we did the Vengeance earlier this year before we shut down. I did the 13 Fanboy, Elias Vorhees. D. Wallace took the lead in that. Corey Feldman, Kane Hodder, Laura Park, Lincoln, and a few others are in it. I understand it's completed. Obviously, it's in the can, waiting for distribution under these unfortunate times. We'll see where that goes. And then, of course, everybody's kind of on a holding pattern as a result of, the virus. This will be the only second convention I've done this year, and everybody's following CDC guidelines. Temperatures are being checked at the door. Everybody's wearing masks. Everybody's cleaning their hands. No direct contact. We're taking photos with masks on. At the end of the day, nothing's going to be perfect. How many false positives have been out there and false negatives? So,
yeah,
you do the best you can. You do everything you can within a percentage margin. It's a number. Everything is a number in life. And we do our best to make sure we're clean before we touch each thing. And we'll see how it goes. And like I said, in 2 weeks, I'll be doing Indianapolis. I'll be doing a convention there for the Halloween weekend. And it should be fun to get out there. The fans are great. Just last night was the first night. They're so happy to get out just because it's such a broad fan base, just huge. I was actually pleasantly surprised how busy we were last night and the attitude of everybody. And everybody was so good about wearing their masks.
Right on, man. Well, CJ, we thank you for taking the time to talk to us, and we look forward to seeing what you on the big screen in the future, whether that be with or without the hockey masks. Everything that we have seen you attached to seems like a lot of fun, and the love of the genre, the love of film comes through. No matter what the project is. So we look forward to it, man. Thank you very much, Joe. We appreciate it. Good talking to you.
All right, thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it, you guys. Be safe, be healthy, and I'll catch you on the rebound, okay?